This episode is brought to you by the Fish Sauce RPG. Unleash the power of precision. Our RPG, rod positioning gadget, is the ultimate tool for adjusting Scotty or Phoebe rod holders.
No more struggles or worn-out tools, just smooth, easy adjustments. Elevate your fishing game and shop the RPG now.
www.fishsauce.com.
And now we got a huge shout out to our next sponsor, Cold Water Strong. Cold Water Strong makes high-quality gear for boat and bank anglers alike, from flasher bumpers and bank fishing leader kits to kill bags and bleed bags. Cold Water Strong has the gear to make you the hot rod in the boat or on the bank. Get your Cold Water Strong products at local fishing retailers like Bob's Sporting Goods in Longview, Anglers Unlimited, previously Angler West in Woodland, and Fisherman Marine and Outdoor. Go visit their website at www.coldwaterstrong.com. Hey, what's going on, guys? Clayton Dietz here with the Wet Net Podcast. I just wanted to take a second to talk to you guys about spinner blades. Are you pretty worn out of running the same old mass-produced blades all the time with paint that won't stick? I highly recommend you take a look at North Wild Outdoors. North Wild Outdoors has been absolutely changing the spinner blade game, man. These blades are made by fishermen for fishermen. Every single blade out their door has been carefully hand painted, and they've been coming up with some killer patterns, ridiculously vibrant colors, and high quality paints that won't chip after you get a couple fish on them. Go check them out at Anglers Unlimited in Woodland, Bob's Sporting Goods in Longview, or check out their website at www.northwildgear.com. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in here for another episode of the Wet Net Podcast. My name is Clayton Dietz, and tonight I'm sitting here on RJ Bennett's casting couch, man. This is exciting. I'm looking forward to this one. We're gonna have a little change of pace tonight. We've been talking a lot of Columbia River salmon, steelhead. We've been talking some Willamette River steelhead salmon stuff, and we're gonna do some big water stuff today. You're an ocean guy.
I am an ocean guy. We're coming up to the season. It starts June 22nd. Already made a few trips down, chased a little bit of bottom fish. Yeah, kind of get a lay of the land for this year. So
yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll dive into that stuff in depth here in just a little bit. First things first, as always, if you guys are liking what you're seeing and hearing so far, please be sure to subscribe, share this out there with your friends, and give it a like. Help grow this thing, man. It's kind of taken off, and I'm really enjoying doing it. We're having a lot of cool guys and having a hell of a time. I always like to try to shout out my sponsors. I always do a horrible job at plugging Adam's sweatshirts. So if you want to get one of these fish sauce sweatshirts, go to I think he has them on his website. I might be lying here. www.fishsauce.com. Might have them, might not. I might be a liar. Either which way, I think he's going to be selling them here in the near future. So you got Adam with the Fish Sauce RPG wrenches. I don't know if you guys have seen those or not. They're those little wrenches for your Scotty slip disc. Do you use those?
Yep. Yeah. They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're better than a pair of channel locks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And they don't tear up your nice shiny boat or nothing.
Exactly.
Next sponsor is Ken Vellante with Cold Water Strong. He's got all of his plethora of products. He's got his bank gear, rod holders. He's got bells. He's got all of his bank fishing leader kits. He's got his trolling stuff, obviously. He's got everything under the sun almost. So www.coldwaterstrong.com. That'll get you all that stuff. And last but not least, we got North Wild Outdoors with all of his spinner blades and high quality paints, super cool colors, and yeah, he's really excited about that sponsorship, man. He's got us lined out with a cool giveaway. I'm probably going to announce that tonight, actually. And we forgot to mention in the last episode with Bill Rivas and Brandon Powers that Bill was cool enough to toss in some Millennial Bait giveaways also. So we're going to get some shrimp cures in there. We're going to get some Cooney sauce, some Cooney gel. And if I remember right, I think 2 jars of shrimp. I think you get a jar of red and a jar of pink. So that'll be included in the giveaway also. Shit. I think we got all the boring stuff out of the way.
all the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, shit. RJ Bennett, man, tell us a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do, a little background. Let's even start from childhood.
from childhood. Well, I grew up in Southwest Washington. Been fishing and hunting my whole life. Kind of taught myself. My parents didn't do the deal. They didn't hunt. They didn't fish or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, kind of started duck hunting. Obviously, I don't know if you guys can see it or not.
Well, they should be able to see at least those ones.
At least the dog stuff. So, kind of, grew up in Longview. Spent a lot of time on the Lower Columbia River. Just my whole life growing up. That's what I did, right? Duck hunted a lot, fished a lot. Bought my first sled actually when I was 18. Like I was like 2 weeks out of high school.
Yeah.
Had a dumb job that they would loan me money, and bought my first sled and kind of just started doing it. I fell in love with buoy 10, man.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't like it. It's a different environment, but tons of people, tons of fish. I mean, it's a cool environment. I started fishing it like 25 years ago now.
Oh yeah.
And just, it went from a couple of weekends a year and made my first bar crossing in a 19-foot sled.
Yeah.
Probably not the smartest thing in the world.
I crossed it twice last year in my 18-foot sled.
Yeah. So and what's funny is the very first time I crossed the bar by myself. I mean, I went with some buddies and their dads and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was my first sled, and we were trolling in the middle of the bar, past buoy 10, but not out to where you could actually. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and one of those days it was sunny and calm, and I was trolling along with a couple of buddies, and the Coast Guard motored up to us and said, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm fishing."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Look at it. We got rods out," and he's like, "Well, you're in the middle of the bar."
Oh, really?
And I'm like, it was kind of one of those deals that was like, yeah. Okay, I'm in the middle. I didn't know any different because I didn't have anybody teach me.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, you can either go a mile that way or a half a mile that way, but you can't fish right here.
Right.
And so they were super cool about it,
Yeah.
And so we kind of turned around, and then I ended up meeting a buddy of mine about a year later. I was building houses, and he grew up in Oahu and kind of showed me kind of lined me out a little bit back in that day and age of how you fish down there. And I just fell in love with it. And it went from a couple of weekends a year to I was taking a week or two off and getting a big group of friends down there. And then, probably 10 years ago, my best friend, he's like, dude, you need to start making some money doing this.
Yeah.
He's like, it's you can't come down here and not catch fish and all the different stuff we do. And so, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, I started guiding down there and just kind of rolled from there, and 3 or 4 iterations of different boats. And it's just, man, I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I still have a full-time job.
Yeah.
But they've given me enough freedom to pretty much my whole summer. I can
that's
go
awesome.
guide and kind of lets me pick and choose who I take.
Yeah.
A little bit, I'm really, really catered to like dads and kids and people that maybe they don't want to go in a big group or whatnot. I can kind of nitpick a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. How much different does that buoy 10 fishery look now than it did 25 years ago in terms of fucking fish numbers, in terms of just gear selection and what people are doing and using?
Man, it started off with Delta divers and cut plug herring.
Yeah.
That's what everybody used, right? Yeah. And there was a lot of fish.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of fish. I mean, I can remember days 2004, 2003, 2005 where it's like you go down for you just fish the incoming tide.
Yeah.
It wasn't an all day grind. It wasn't, you go down there and we'd launch at Oahu or Chinook. I mean, I had my boat moored in Chinook for 10 years before I started guiding.
Oh, really?
It was awesome, right? You literally come out of Chinook and you get in front of the pile dike, and you just holding the current and catch your fish and go back in.
Yeah.
It was simple, right? And then it's changed. I mean, when I started, we didn't even use flashers.
Right.
I mean, I in fact, outside of this little room here, I've still got flashers that I made in 2005.
Oh, really?
Out of plexiglass.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's just, it was cool. It was fun. And I like to see the change, right? The evolution of 360s and all the other stuff. And I'm a tech guy. I mean, after building houses, I ended up going to college and got an engineering background. And so I can kind of nerd out on it. And like 360s make sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? They make sense in the ocean. They make sense in the river. They make sense everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
in the last, what is it, 5 to 7 years, they've really blown up, and it kind of started picking up popularity over on the east side and worked their way over here. And
it did. It actually, I mean, I went to college in Eastern Washington. So I fished Vernita in 2002.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I was in college in 2002, and from 2002 to 2004, and they were fishing them over there.
Yeah.
Or a version of it, right? It was a Dodger or some form of 360, but it took a while for it to kick in over here.
Yeah.
But you think the technical side of it, right? You're there to make motions and attract fish. Well, an inline triangle, it flashes and it moves, but it doesn't make the commotion that attracts fish that are looking to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So your guide service is Lower Columbia Guide Service, is that right?
Yep,
so
Lower Columbia Guide Service.
You said you've been doing that for about 10 years, right?
Yeah. In fact, I just had to renew now for the second time. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So what does that kind of look like? So you'll start fishing in the ocean here in a couple weeks, and then
we're based out of Oregon because of the Washington charter rules and stuff, right? So I start my bottom fish season usually in March, right? It's you got to pick your days.
Yeah.
The weather, I've got 4 different apps on my phone that I'm watching the weather and talking to buddies that live down there. I'll start my bottom fish stuff March, April. In fact, I ran 3 trips last weekend for bottom fish, but salmon will start at the end of June,
right?
Like always. And I'll do usually 4 days a week through the end of June, July, and then opening weekend of Buoy 10. I'll be down there from there until the 28th.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with that bottom fishing stuff, man, how long ago was it? That addicted video that you guys did, where the boat almost went bye-bye.
Yeah,
that must have been a shit in your pants moment.
I will tell you, I stayed out of my boat for about 4 months.
Did you really?
Yeah. It got me. I've been in some stuff. And obviously, like, when you're guiding, you got to realize that you have everybody, you're responsible for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In my regular day-to-day job, I oversee a group of 40 guys,
right? And
I'm responsible for them.
Right.
And it was kind of the same deal. And it was, it's a place I've been a million times.
Yeah.
And I just, we were having a good time and talking and BSing and the way that works there. And obviously it was on the South Jetty and it was an incoming tide. It was a great day. If you watch that video,
it was gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. But it's a big incoming tide. It forms a weird swell on that South Jetty and it gets really big.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's flat, calm, and no wind. It always gets big. And there's a little gap. That's probably not the safest place, but there's a little gap right off the rock so you can shoot through there.
Oh, yeah.
And it saves you from having to run all the way out and around, but it's not a safe place to cross. And we were done bottom fishing. We had caught all of our bottom fish, and we were just going around and check our crab pots, and we were just talking and BSing and having a good time, and I let the boat get into it.
Yeah.
And by the time I realized it, we were in trouble.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about not wearing life jackets and everything else. I can tell you and that's the other thing, right? You get comfortable.
Yeah.
You get complacent. And as a captain, I got complacent.
Right.
But when we crossed, and obviously it's not in the video, but when we crossed, we all had our life jackets on.
Yeah.
We crossed, we went and set crab pots, we came back across, we all had them on. We were sitting there bottom fishing. It was nice. It was getting warm, and you know how it is, right?
People start shedding layers, and you get sweaty.
You take the life jacket off to take your coat off. Well, you don't put it back on.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the situation we got into, and now my life jackets don't leave the seats in my boat. Right?
Yeah.
You're putting them on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Bottom line, and it was just I've probably got over 400 bar crossings. Across the Columbia now. That was the one time.
Yeah.
And I got lucky.
Yeah. That was scary as shit to watch. I mean, like, you can see in the video that your boat was fucking sideways.
I will say that my port side rod locker filled with water.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Dude, it got me.
Yeah.
And it was, right? And at that point, I had put all those people in danger too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the worst part. And it was complacency. And that's just one thing, man. In that ocean, you never know.
Yeah.
Never know, right? And
for sure.
And you do something a million times,
you get that hint of complacency.
Yep. And it's the same thing. I mean, most people, if you're in a laboring job, right, it can kick your ass, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You fall asleep. You get complacent. I've been on the east side of the mountains duck hunting, and it's been way worse than that day.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a problem, right? Because you're heightened awareness and all the other stuff. This just.
And when it hits you out of nowhere,
Well, and the thing was I knew that's what got me. It's like, I know it gets bad there.
Right.
Right. And you tell everybody, sit down, shut up, let me drive.
Right.
That's my job. Right.
Yep.
My job is to get us across this. And it just, man, like I said, it kept me out of my boat for like 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just one of those kind of reevaluate everything. you know,
put yourself in check and
take some accountability. That was like, man, I could have screwed up a lot of people's lives there.
Well, yeah. And you get the people that are in the boat, but also, you know, like people got kids and
and Marlon and I talked about it a lot afterwards. It was like, man, it's a good learning point for a lot of people that don't go down there a lot of times.
Right. Well, and, you know, I'll be brutally honest with you. Like I said, I did 2 bar crossings out there last year in my little 18-foot fish, right? Yeah. Probably the flattest days that we had out there.
Yeah.
And the bar itself, absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
And we went out and we got our fish and we were going to go do some bottom fishing. And this just from lack of knowledge. I mean, like when I say I have 2 bar crossings, that's all I've ever done, you know? And we went down there and we were fishing off that South Jetty and it started to get big. And I was like, holy shit. Like,
right. And the rest of the river and the rest of the ocean's flat.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a nice incoming tide. It wasn't even all that big of a tide, but you know, when your boat's only 18 foot, you know, it gets big quick. And I was like, okay, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is you don't really understand what's under the water.
Yeah.
Like on those nice flat days, you know, you got a 2-foot exchange or something like that. It's nice and flat, and then the tide turns, right? And it might be a 5-foot incoming.
Yeah.
It's just enough to build it on those sunken rocks that it just gets big. And like it honestly pissed me off that happened. I mean, it really did, because it's like, man, I've done this a million. I mean, we had already, I think we had crossed 2 or 3 times across that spot already that morning. And it was just one, like I said, man, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It more pisses me off that I put us in that spot.
Right.
You know, but you take accountability for it, and I guarantee it'll never happen again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the cool thing is a lot of people wouldn't take that accountability. A lot of guys would be like, oh, I don't know what the fuck happened, you know.
Well, and that's the thing. And what's funny is from that video, and we talked about whether we were going to put it online or anything else, and it was like, you know what? I know how much I learned from it. Think about how much everybody else can learn from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've actually had a lot of clients call me and say, like, you know, we don't care what the situation was, but the fact that you realized it, you got out of it, you know, we want to book with you. And so, I mean, kudos to that they still trust me to take them in the ocean, because, like I said, it scared the shit out of me.
Well, man. And you know, it takes a different kind of captain to be able to get out of a situation like that too.
Yeah. It was.
I'm sure it probably happened so damn fast that you're like, I don't even know what just happened.
It was nuts, and I'll give a little plug to Alumaweld. Is, man, that boat. Right.
Yeah.
Of course, now I sold it, but I got another one sitting outside the shop. But man, it was just, you know, the conditions were right for us to get out of there, and I don't ever want to be in that spot again.
No, for sure. And you know, if people, I feel like a lot of people still take the Columbia River Bar for granted. I mean, they call it the graveyard of the Pacific for a reason.
Exactly.
And you know, you take a 26 foot
with an offshore bracket, right? It was 28 feet overall.
Yeah. It threw that boat around like nothing.
It was like a tin can.
Like, imagine what it would have done for my little boat. I would have been, if not dead, I would have been swimming, you know, for sure. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what a lot of people, I mean, it catches them off guard down there. I mean, there's been days where the river's great. When you get on that bar, the bar's, it's a different animal. Yeah, it is a different animal. I mean, if anything, I would recommend go with somebody that's crossed it a few times.
Yeah.
You know, Brandon Powers, right? Brandon's crossed it with me quite a bit just to get a hang of it. Right?
Yeah.
And in fact, what's funny is a lot of my clients, they'll book a trip where they have a boat that might even be bigger than mine, but they've never crossed the bar.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times they'll sit in the back with me.
Yeah.
And then we just talk about stuff as we're crossing, right? Like, look at this buoy, and, you know, on the south side, look at the breakers. And just kind of get a feel for how you run, right? And this time of year, the winds are always blowing out of the west. And so the swell is most of the time out of the northwest. So it's, you know, they ask me, why are you crossing the river? Well, I'm going to the river so that when I come across, I'm going with the swell, right? I can get in the bottom of a swell, or I can get the top of a swell and zip all the way over to the south side. Just little stuff that it just takes time. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And eventually one of them's going to bite you.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's, you do the best that you can to not put yourself in that position. And this one, unfortunately, I was having a good time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And God forbid it happened on an addictive video where, you know, probably 100,000 people are going to see it. And
I think that one's actually over 100,000.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Which, you know what, though, if somebody can learn from my stupid mistake, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I like teaching. That's why I guide.
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. And so if people can learn from that, kudos. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best thing. So.
Yeah. Well, you want to know a great thing that we could even take a minute to talk about, and I didn't prep you for this at all, is we could even dive into some bar crossing safety, or just some of that safety, like what kind of things you look at, weather wise, like, am I going to cross today? Am I not going to cross today? Every boat's different. Every captain's different, you know, tide sets,
So there's a lot. I mean, I'm like, I was just looking for this coming weekend. So I pick the day that I want to fish. Right. So say I want to fish this coming Saturday. I'm going to look at Friday and Thursday, and then I'm going to look at Sunday and Monday.
Right.
And you look to see if things start to build, right? The wind for one is the killer.
Right.
And then the swell. And for me, I look at the duration of the swell. So usually on the Columbia, it's going to be 8 to 10 seconds. That's kind of the average.
Right.
And my combined number. So you've got a swell number, which is 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet. And then you have a wind chop number. The wind chop, the combined number between those two has to be at least half of my time.
Okay. So if you were to have like a 4 foot swell with a 2 foot wind swell or wind chop,
we're looking 12 to 14 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
At a minimum. Right. And usually I don't like anything over 5 anyway.
Yeah.
Anything over 5, you can fish it. And it's usually, as long as that duration is extended, it's not unsafe. It's just not comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just not fun. And wind is what gets you. And it's like 2 foot of wind chop.
Yeah.
That's about it. I don't, just because it beats you up.
Right.
I mean, you can have a 1 foot swell, but you get 3 feet of wind chop.
Yeah.
And it just beats you. You get wet, especially if you're in an open boat like most of us have.
Yeah.
You know, windshield boats can handle a little bit better, but it's just not fun to fish in. So I'm looking a day or two before and usually a day or two after.
Yeah.
To see, I mean, Saturday might be a great forecast. So like this past weekend, right? We fished Saturday. Sunday was horrible.
Right.
So I watched it all week long to make sure Sunday didn't creep into Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, and then the other thing is the tides. So always incoming.
Always,
right?
yeah.
Always incoming. Unless you're down there and you're on the water every day, then there is some outgoing tides that you can cross on. I don't recommend it to anybody. So just a little disclaimer right here. Don't ever cross on an outgoing.
Right.
I'll say that, but there's times that you can.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is like this weekend, we had a pretty big, not big. It was about a 5 foot exchange, which is the high tide to the low tide, the amount of water that's moving out of the river.
Right.
And so 5 foot exchange isn't very big.
Yeah. Not for down there.
Not for down there. Last weekend, the weekend before I fished, it was an 8.5 foot exchange.
Right.
So, for example, that weekend, low tide was about 8:45. I didn't even get to the ramp until 9:30.
Yeah.
Just to let that water flush out, right?
Right.
Just to get it out, and then we ended up crossing, and it was fine.
Yeah.
So you need to look at the tide. You need to look at when the tide is, because you want to cross it like a low slack. Usually I don't cross at a high slack because then I'm stuck out there.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that tide is going to be rushing out for 5, 6, 7 hours. Unless I'm planning on salmon fishing or running up by Long Beach or, you know, planning on spending the day out there, and I know the wind's not going to pick up,
Yeah.
then I will. You know, if say a high slack is at 6 in the morning and there's not supposed to be any afternoon winds,
Yeah.
I'll cross in the morning.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going to spend all day out there.
Right.
So, yeah, it's the tide, what the tide's doing, what time it is, what the afternoon and the next day look like.
Yeah.
Because you can get out there on a great day on a Saturday, but if Sunday starts creeping into you,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, I got to get off the water, but now the tide's going out.
Yeah.
And I can't get back across, right? So it's all these little different numbers that you need to look at that you look for those sets and those like 2, 3, 4 days in a row that it's really nice.
Yeah.
You can kind of just
Yeah.
plan your days and go.
Yeah.
So
one thing that I think is pretty important that we touch on too is everybody that goes across obviously should. Is it a legal thing? Do you have to have a VHF, or is it like just kind of a smart thing to do?
So for us, it is. We have to have a form of communications, but for a private sport boat, it's not.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's $125.
Yeah, it'll save
your life. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, what are the channels that those guys run out there?
16 and 22 alpha.
Okay,
22A.
gotcha.
So, like on mine, I run a scan. So it's 16, 22 alpha, and then some of the sport fishing channels.
Yeah.
Some like the Oahu guys run on channel 11, and 72 and 68 are some of the other private sport channels, but 16 and 22 alpha.
Yeah.
And I always ask for a bar report.
Right.
So don't be that guy that feels embarrassed to call. I mean, because a lot of time, when I first started, it was like you hear everybody talking on the radio, and I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
You know,
right.
but. Hell, I called them from the parking lot on Saturday.
Right.
You know, and just turn the radio on and call. It's Coast Guard Cape Disappointment, and call them and ask for a bar report. Now, one thing about the bar reports is they update them every 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
So there is those times that, low tides at 7:30 and you get to the ramp at 7:30 and you call for a bar report and they might have checked it at 5.
Right.
They're not going to update it until 8:30.
Yeah.
So always check them because you have to follow those rules.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is there's been times I've got to the bar and you can see, it looks like this concrete floor.
Yeah.
It's flat, but it's still closed to a certain length and you can't cross.
Yeah.
So, but don't be afraid to ask. And I've got a handheld and I've got a fixed mount in my boat.
Yeah.
I've got both. And then I have the station programmed into my phone too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can call straight to the station because you can never be too safe out there.
No, absolutely. And that's part of why I felt like it was pretty important to touch on that, just because for somebody, especially like myself, that doesn't do it often or hardly ever, like, it's information you need to know if you're going to go and do it.
Well, and a lot of people want to. I'll be honest with you. Ocean fishing's fun.
Oh, it's a blast.
It is a blast. And don't get me wrong. There's something about bouncing a bait on the bottom of the river and hanging a big Chinook. Don't get me wrong. I love it. There's also something about a coho rodeo. And I get it. They're only 4 and 6 pound fish.
Yeah.
But it's just fun.
Yeah. But when you're hooking into 30 in a day.
Well, and that's for me. I love taking kids out there.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
'Cause
it's like big kokanee.
It's exactly what it is. Me personally, I'll tell you, I don't eat salmon.
Yeah.
So I hate salmon. I don't eat it, but I love catching them.
Right.
And for kids, most kids nowadays, they're stuck on their phones. And I hate it. Absolutely hate it. So you got to keep them busy.
Yeah.
That's bottom fishing.
Yep.
Ocean salmon, right? They're busy. They're doing stuff all the time. And later in the year, we get some good kokanee. We get good silvers out there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we get some good Chinook out there. But that ocean fishing's fun to me.
Yeah.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
So, but it's a different animal crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of people want to do it and they see everybody doing it, but what they don't realize is, Joe Blow that's crossing right now in a 13-foot Boston whaler, he's probably crossed it 50 times, 60 times, 70 times, right? So they don't understand, and so, and there's different parts of the bar. So that's the other thing people don't realize is there's like 4 sections to the Columbia River bar.
Oh, okay.
So you've got like Clatsop Spit, which is the South Jetty.
Right.
Then you have the Channel. Then you have the Middle Grounds. And then you have Peacock Spit. Each one can have a different tides, not different tides, but it can have different wave sets.
Right.
And so a lot of times, like the north side is always the worst.
Yeah.
And there's times that we cross on the north side. But for the most part, the south side, the way the swell's coming in the summertime, the south side is usually calm. So if you're coming out of Oahu and you turn across the bar, it's going to be big. It could be big. It could be huge. But just a half-mile shift south, and it's flat, and you can cross. So you got to understand how when you pull up to the 12 buoy or the 14 buoy and you're looking at it, and on that side of the river, when you're going out, there's a pretty gnarly rip that runs that whole from Hammond all the way down.
Yeah.
It gets gnarly.
Oh, and it gets pretty big over there up against the jetty too.
It does, and you'll see the breakers.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You'll see so they call it Social Security Beach there off of the Oregon side, and it'll break out there. That's why I said a lot of times I'll actually zip over, not all the way to the Washington side, but the way those swells come in, they come in from the northwest. You can kind of get around that rip,
right?
And then you cross past buoy 10, and you kind of drop down into it. And the north side might still be big, but the south side's nice and calm. And I watched a guy this was probably 15 years ago. We came out of Oahu in a friend's boat, in a big windshield boat, big outboard. And he didn't have very many crossings, and he turned right at buoy 11 at Oahu, and it was big. It was gnarly. And this guy came out behind us it was a 13-foot center console Boston whaler.
Yeah.
And he zipped all the way across the river. And I told my buddy, I said, man, we should probably, this guy's not coming out here that doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And I said, if he crosses in that thing, if you don't cross in this, there's something wrong with us. And so we actually, and I told him he didn't have very many crossings. That's why I was with him. And I said, we should probably get over there. And it was flat calm all the way out, And so that just shows the different sections of that bar, how they can, each one's different.
Yeah.
At different parts of the tide. So.
Yeah. That's one thing, like with my two crossings, I didn't have anybody in the boat with me, but I was following. First crossing I followed my buddy Larry, and the second one I followed my buddy John, and made sure that I stuck with them the entire day because for one, not having that many crossings, like if something happens, I want to make sure that I have that help right there.
And that's I've done that. A lot of my friends have boats, right, and they don't have crossings. But I've got one buddy. He goes down to Buoyton every year, and he says, "Hey, he'll call me. Are you going in the ocean today? I want to follow you."
Yeah.
Right. So he slowly builds that experience and that time, that crossing, and like I said, I mean, you gotta build the time and just the being able to read it and understand it and what you're looking. I mean, there's so much data at our fingertips now.
Yeah.
But you can watch all the videos in the world until you're there.
Yeah.
It's different. You know?
Yeah.
So it's fun. That's what I like the best about it. It's just every day is different.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, now we got over some of the safety stuff. Assuming you made it safely across the bar, you're going to be doing some bottom fishing. You're going to be doing some salmon fishing. You have been doing some bottom fishing.
Yeah.
What's kind of a report that you got?
It's been good.
It's been pretty good.
It's been good.
Last year was kind of weird, wasn't it? For the sea bass, at least.
Last year was real different because we had a ton of snow runoff, and they've kind of metered it this year coming out of the Columbia. Last year it was like we had no snow, and then we had a lot of snow, and they dumped it all at the same time.
Right.
And last year it pushed a lot of those sea bass. I think what my hunch is, right, and I'm not a biologist, but what my hunch is, there was so much flow coming down the Columbia, it just pushed them off the rocks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you get a ton of flow coming down, I mean, even for the biggest schools of sea bass, right, they got to hide somewhere.
Right.
And I was surprised. I mean, my first trip down, I sold my boat and didn't have my new one until just a couple weeks ago, but I was happy with the numbers I saw and the size that I saw.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we weren't in a nursery with a bunch of little tiny sea bass.
Right.
So that was good. Like I said, last year was different. It forced us to go look a little bit, and we found some spots that, like I said, it's the graveyard of the Pacific, and there's a lot of sunken boats out there, and we found a couple of them.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was.
You see them on your live scope?
Found them on live scope, and see some of the old nautical charts that you can look at. They'll show some of those old shipwrecks.
Oh, really?
Now, most of them are sanded in.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing. You'll drive over top of it. It looks like a sandy bottom.
Yeah.
There's a couple that we found that there was still some shapes.
Yeah.
And you drop down and you're catching 4 and 5 pound sea bass the whole time. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. But this last little bit's been pretty good. You guys getting into lingcod? You guys getting into sea bass?
Yeah, we fished last Monday. We fished on Memorial Day. It took us 40 minutes, and we killed 6 limits of sea bass.
Yeah.
So we do it a little bit different. It was awesome. We went back down this Saturday. I had 5 guys. We killed our 25 sea bass pretty quickly. Lingcod, we targeted lingcod this last trip after we were done with our sea bass. We ended up killing 4. Caught a bunch of small ones.
Yeah.
So it's I was a little disappointed that size wasn't there. Yeah. But it's good that there's little ones.
Yeah.
That's the big thing for us, is right. We want to see the little ones.
Yeah.
The trip before that, it was pretty rough.
Was it pretty rough?
Yeah. It was same thing. That incoming tide, and then it got big, and I learned my lesson. And so I did have one guy that was help chumming a little bit. And so we ended up killing 2 or 3 that trip. Yeah. And so I don't. The limit's 22 inches. If you go out of Oregon, it's 22 inches, and that's another weird thing about our regulations. So if you come out of Washington, there's no size limit on lingcod.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's no size limit. If you come out of Oregon and you land in Oregon, it's 22 inches.
Gotcha.
They will ticket you on the South Jetty because it's Oregon waters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
if you're fishing over there, do you need an Oregon license over there?
No, you don't need an Oregon license because it's still concurrent waters.
Gotcha.
But you have to follow the Oregon rules.
Gotcha.
And so I've actually had some friends that got dinged on that
too.
There's same thing with Cabazon.
Yeah.
So Cabazon, there's not a season in Washington, but Oregon is July 1st.
Right.
And so had a buddy last year that he caught a really nice Cabazon and he killed it and he got a ticket for it.
Oh, jeez.
So
yeah.
That's just, so you got to make sure you know your regs
a
little bit, or ask somebody that fishes a little, they can kind of straighten you out a little bit. But I try not to keep the little tiny lingcod. 28 inches, right? It's a good eater size.
Yeah.
So,
and like you gotta do your part to take care of the fishery.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I bet you we caught. Oh man, I don't know. We probably caught 20 lingcod this last trip.
Yeah.
And there was we let some keepers go, but it wasn't. The guys that were with me weren't really concerned with it. I mean, it was kind of one of those things that was like, man, they're fun to catch,
Yeah.
But you don't got to kill and eat every single one of them.
Right.
So.
Yeah. They make good fish tacos. They make good fish and chips, but you don't got to kill them all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so you got some rods pulled over there. You want to go over a couple of setups?
Yeah, so kind of what I like to do, I can grab some here.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to go over some setups here and see what he's got.
All right, so for sea bass for me, I like the lightweight stuff, right? And so it's just an Okuma twitching rod. That's all we use. It's got a 1 ounce jig head on it. I have a guy pour my swim baits for me, so I probably won't show them on here, but they're pretty much just mimic a bait fish, right?
Right.
That's the biggest thing for us. I did re-spool them with 30 pound, just because when we get into the sea bass hot and heavy, I hand line them in the boat.
Gotcha.
So you can get by a 20 pound or 13 pound, 15 pound, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
it's just a 1 ounce jig head. Any plastic swim bait will really catch it, right?
Yeah. You just tie the main line straight to that. You don't use any kind of other terminal.
I don't run a bumper. I don't run anything, because you're going to be, I mean, where we're fishing them on those rocks, you're in 12, 14, 15 feet of water.
Yeah.
You know,
it's pretty snaggy.
it's really snaggy. And I started going lighter, just because some of the times the people that are in the boat don't fish very much. So a little bit lighter doesn't get them down into the rocks as fast.
Yeah.
And so that's when I use my boat to maneuver them kind of over the fish. But take the safety note in with that too. You're in tight against the rocks. Be careful.
Yeah, be careful.
You know, be careful. So I switched to using a bow mount now. It's a game changer.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
So
sure it is.
but realistically, when I'm fishing sea bass like that, I'm not fishing.
Right.
I'm running.
You're running the boat.
I'm running the boat. I'm paying attention to the swells, kind of that deal.
Yeah.
So, but it's so much more fun on the light gear.
Yeah.
It's just a blast. I mean, you know, and every kid can cast a spinning reel.
Oh yeah.
You know, you don't have to teach somebody how to cast a bait caster.
Right.
You know, that they're going to backlashing the whole time. Right. I've just found that for me, this works better.
Yeah.
You know?
Simplicity of.
And there is some days that, you know, that there might not be as many sea bass on the rocks. They might be more out on the sunken portion. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you're going to find enough to have a good day.
Yeah.
You know? And then this is my bottom fish rig. So I actually make my own droppers. Here, hold that.
Yep.
I can grab one of my droppers here.
Yeah. Did you loan these to Brandon Powers last year?
Yeah, I got a broken one over there too.
You got a broken one over there.
It's
I was going to say, I think I fished with one of these last year.
yeah, you probably fish with mine that's broken over in the rod rack right now.
Probably. I probably broke that one, honestly.
Yeah, probably. So I just run a dropper like this. I attach a bat weight to it. Just attach it to the bottom, kind of keeps it out of the rocks a little bit, allows it to slide in and out. And then it's just a snap on here. And I leave my slider and all this stuff on here because I use the same rods for sturgeon and everything else. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're aggressive.
Yeah.
And then it's a 2-hook rig and short leader. Doesn't need anything big and crazy. So the leader's about 18 inches. It's just a regular single hook and then a treble.
Gotcha.
And so I run anchovies, herring, any bait fish you can find.
Yeah.
You put it on there. They're so aggressive. They're gonna smash it.
Yeah.
You know? So the biggest thing with the lean cod is just get on the bottom.
Right.
You know?
Do you ever run artificials for them too, or do you run mostly just bait?
I don't so much. I used to run diamond jigs
a
little bit, but then I found, I mean, you'll go through 10, 15 on a trip.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm only fishing me and a couple of buddies, it's fine. But when I got 6 clients, it's not cost effective.
Right.
And so and bait I've actually found to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just, I mean,
it makes sense.
They're predatory fish and they want to eat, and so I actually go to Newport and catch my own herring.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's a fun trip.
Yeah,
so,
that's super cool. So I want to say, I don't remember who was telling me, and you can tell me if they're wrong, because I kind of adjusted some things last year to this. So if you're fishing for salmon out there and you get your salmon, you have your salmon on board, I heard you're not allowed to use trebles for bottom fish. Is that false? Because you're not, because you're only supposed to use single points for salmon.
That's not false.
That's not false.
That's true.
Okay, so if you're fishing for salmon and then you go to bottom fish,
if you have a salmon on board,
yeah,
you have to use gear that's legal for salmon.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
even if you're bottom fishing,
even if you're bottom fishing, so in the ocean, that's 2 single point hooks, barbless.
Right. Gotcha.
And so we bottom fish first.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep, we bottom fish first.
Yeah.
And so I do have a set of leaders tied up. And I'll be honest, I just use my anchovy leaders.
Yeah.
If we go out and we decide to salmon fish first,
Yeah.
when we come back in, I'll cut my anchovy leaders down, make them shorter.
Right.
And just throw those on.
Gotcha.
So, and same thing, a lot of my jig heads are pinched.
Okay.
Just so that I don't have to worry about it when I come back in, because if OSP's out there, they'll get you. So
Yeah.
And we've actually caught salmon on the South Jetty. So
Oh, really?
yeah, with the swim baits.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's right away.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like your line takes off and it's like, oh, there's salmon.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, there's I think I've caught probably over the last 6 or 7 years, probably 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not great, and it's always the end of August.
Right.
You get the big tides. There's tons of silvers in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's usually when you'll catch one.
Yeah.
In the summertime. So
Yeah.
But that's the big thing is they got to be pinched.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's only if you have fish on board. So.
Right. Yeah. So, how was your ocean salmon season last year? Was that pretty good, or?
It was a little bit different. It was the weather kicked our ass.
Yeah.
The year before, so 2022, we fished every day.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But the weather was kind of funny last year. We didn't get as many days out there as we wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I take my boat down in July,
Right.
so it's pretty stuck down there. I mean, I usually go down 4th of July weekend is usually when I start getting real hot and heavy. And at that point, my boat's in the slip. So if the ocean's gnarly, we're catching really sturgeon fishing.
Yeah.
So it was different. It was weird is the Chinook. I mean, everybody knows the Chinook show up off of Long Beach, right? That's the way they come. Silvers usually come from the south. The Chinook come from the north. And they really didn't get there until August. Like, they weren't there in numbers until August.
Yeah. But it sounded like when they were there, they were there.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But we ran into the weather at the same time.
Right.
I mean, we had, so I fished the lipstick challenge, right? It's the women's only tournament.
Yeah.
My wife and all of her friends come down, and we fished it the 3 days before that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was killer out there. I had clients. I mean, it was a little sporty.
Yeah.
There were some rough days, but it was like, you get to where the fish are, and it was 45 minutes, and you got your Chinook, and then come on the lipstick day, it was snotty, and we ended up having to stay in the river. So,
Yeah.
But there was like about a week long stretch there. It was they were staged.
Yeah.
And you can almost follow them. I mean, it's like when the charter boats start getting them up off the end of the peninsula, you can kind of plan it and be like, okay, well, they're going to be at Ocean Park on this day. They're going to be at Long Beach this day. They're going to be at Seaview this day.
Yeah.
And then they start to stage right outside the river.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of really good days, even middle of August, where just zipped outside, got on the green line. So that's the other thing about crossing too, is you've got the green line buoys and the red line buoys. The green line buoys are on the north side of the river.
Right.
And the red lines are on the south side. And a lot of those fish will stage in that green line area. And there's some days in August where it was pretty awesome, where normally those days would have been in July.
Yeah.
Just seemed a little bit later than normal.
Yeah.
So,
which I feel like is kind of the trend. I feel like everything's showing up later and later, and
everything.
So.
I mean, we fished the first 3 weekends ago was the first weekend I had my boat. We went and we caught was springers.
Yeah.
I mean, it was they were definitely springers. They were not summer fish.
Right.
So, but I'm excited for this year. Forecast is about the same.
Is it pretty good?
Yeah. I mean, it's about the same as last year, which we've got a pretty good quota. So we should be able to fish the whole summer with buoy 10 going to hatchery only.
Right.
That should give us pretty much the whole summer to fish.
Yeah. Well, they gave us, what did they do? I think it's what was Powers saying? The last 4 days or something like that, or non-mark selected buoy 10?
Yeah, the 20th on.
20th on. Yeah.
20th on.
That's a little concerning, because 2 years ago they gave us 3 days of non-mark select, and
it was brutal.
We blew through that quick, and it screwed the rest of the river for the rest of the season.
It did. It's a little bit later this year. I think it's like the 28th. Hopefully they'll get their escapement by then.
Right.
I'm hoping that. Yeah, 2 years ago that was pretty brutal.
Yeah. Last year worked out so damn good. It was just, at least for a weekend guy. I know you guys had those closures kind of midweek or whatever those were, and I'm sure that sucked. But.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was like a mass exodus out of Astoria. Yeah. I mean, it really was. It was. We all hauled up, and put the boats on. I mean, I got to sleep in my own bed for a couple of days, which
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah.
You know, but it was guys heading to the Lewis and guys heading to the mouth of the Cowlitz, and
Yeah.
it kind of sucked. I mean, it just more drive time,
Right.
more time behind the wheel, driving the truck, putting it on the trailer, you know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, it was the decision to sell my last boat and buy this one. So
Yeah.
just a little bit more versatile. But hopefully it'll keep it. You know, instead of throwing a closure in the middle, hopefully it'll allow us to fish all the way through Labor Day.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
You know, and you really start to see a shift there about the 24th, 25th. Guys kind of pulling out and
Yeah.
getting a little
starting to chase them.
Yeah, starting to. I mean, you're more into pretty much silvers at that time. I mean, there's still some good Chinook fishing, but it's not near as what it is, you know, second, third week of the season.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's personally, I like the silver fishing down there.
Yeah, silver fishing's a blast.
In September,
Yeah.
it's you know, I mean, you got a quarter, not even a quarter. You got, you know, an eighth of the people down there.
Yeah.
And as long as we get some consistent weather, right, and you get, the problem is. And it's always about the end of August. You'll get 1 or 2 days of a south wind,
Right.
and it screws it all up.
Yep.
You know, the south wind comes, and the fish will shoot through you. You get 1 or 2 days of rain because you haven't had rain in a month.
Yeah.
And those fish will blow through there. Yep, they blow through there, and then it's like, okay, now we're waiting for like the real run of silvers to come in.
Yeah, yeah. Which it seems like the last handful of years they never really have. You know, like that B run just hasn't materialized.
It's there, but it's so spread out and spotty.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, you don't get those days in the middle of September where it's just like 70 fish.
Yeah. Well, I know that that silver forecast this year is looking rough. And I know those are fish on paper, but it's like the fish the last 3 years that we were supposed to have on paper never came.
They never came.
So it's kind of like what's going to happen this year.
Well, and it's kind of frustrating too because ocean conditions right now are killer.
Yeah.
I mean, there is so much life in the ocean right now,
Right.
and it's kind of frustrating. And it's, you know, I hate digging on the state and everything else, but it's like just produce more fish.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I mean, I live on the Cowlitz River and make more fish.
Yeah. No kidding.
I mean, there's not a lot of natives left.
No,
right?
no.
Not in the Columbia system, right? Yeah. I mean, we took away their spawning grounds,
right.
you know, 70 years ago. So it's like, just produce them.
Yeah. And you know, that's what's so cool about you, like the Tillamook Bay tributaries. They have their broodstock programs. There are some awesome products coming from that broodstock program.
Yeah.
Why do we not do that down here?
We need to.
Common sense.
We need to, and there's enough people that are on board for the broodstock program. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, just that I know what we catch here on the Cowlitz, you know, and they call them reclips and all this other stuff, right? They're double clipped and they got hole punches in the adipose, the dorsal fin, and just all kinds of stuff. And now, like this year on the Cowlitz, we've got the double clip springer.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Just make more.
Yeah. I heard they just turned that around though a couple weeks ago, where you can keep the adipose only.
They did, but there was a lot. There was a lot of springers in the Cowlitz that people were not allowed to keep.
Yeah. That's rough.
That didn't have an adipose.
Yeah. That's rough.
Which, it made it tough. So, you know, but we just need more fish, right? I mean, there was a time, you know, anybody that was fishing down there 2014, 2015, man, that was killer.
Yeah.
Some of those Chinook runs were insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
it was
Western.
It was, you know, and it was like you couldn't catch a silver if your life depended on it, but the Chinook were just you're getting a million fish back.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I mean, that was just, you know, so we just need to get back to where we're producing more fish.
Yeah, yeah. Whether it's just from the hatcheries or from brood stocks or whatever we can do, because the level of predation is absolutely fucking asinine between sea lions and cormorants, and you know we got so many warm water fish, you know, bass and walleye and stuff. Even in this lower stretch, there's bass and walleye down here. Yep. Like, you know, like
go to Class Kenai Slough if you want to catch some walleye.
Yeah,
I mean they're there. You know, Coal Creek Slough. There's smallmouth in Coal Creek Slough.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. So
and then the sea lions are just it's something else.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But
so anybody that spent any time in the mouth of the Cowlitz this spring, oh man, it was insane. I mean, I worked right at the mouth of the Cowlitz, and there was 500 sea lions there. They're still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and we're seeing it even down on the lower river. I take my clients by the South Jetty. We call it Seal Rock. I mean, it's just, and a lot of people don't realize how many there actually is.
Yeah.
You know, but we deal with it. We don't, you know, you don't lose too many down there to the sea lions, but as these people start to leave at the end of the buoy 10 season, then it gets bad.
Yeah, it gets pretty.
Then they start to target the boats. And,
start chasing boats around.
Yep, falling around. We ran into it last year at the end of the year a little bit.
Yeah,
they just, you just move to get away from them.
Yeah,
that's the bad thing. I mean, there's some stuff you can do. Paintball guns and shots and all that stuff. But no, it's this summer's going to be pretty good. And like I said, the bottom fishing stuff right now it looks really good.
Yeah. So do you do some crabbing stuff while you're out there too?
Yeah, we do. I usually don't start crabbing until middle to end of August, and they're still soft. You can check them.
Yeah.
They haven't filled out all the way. They will the end of August, right? Especially if you're in the ocean, they'll be a little bit more full.
Yeah.
But if you're in the river, you can still do pretty good, and it's a great time. I keep my carcasses. Yeah. And use those. It's really Everybody says, "Oh, the months that end in an R," but there's really something to say about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that it is. September, October, November, December are the best months for crabbing. And, even through October, we still get good weather.
Right. Yeah.
And it's fun. I got a couple of freezers sitting out there that are full of crab bait. Right. I got to get some crabbing trips in.
Yeah.
I need some freezer room.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but, I know. Last year in October, my lady and I we went down and we were fishing. We were crabbing right at the A jetty there. Oh yeah. And dude, that was ridiculous. I mean, it was so ridiculous.
It's fun. I mean, and it's like my wife loves doing it.
Oh yeah.
It's a good time. You go down and you play the tides once again, right? You're doing it on an incoming tide, so it can be, you can just schedule your day to where you don't got to get up early.
Yeah.
You go down, you take your cooler full of drinks and you set the crab pots, wait 45 minutes, go pull them and get.
Yeah.
I do like crabbing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I do some combo stuff where we do like crab and bottom fish or crab and salmon.
Yeah.
And when I'm doing the grind at buoy 10, I don't like to, just because it's more crap in the boat.
Right.
But we get towards September, October, and the bottom fishing is still good. I mean, it really is good, pretty much year round if you can get out there.
Right.
It's just you got to find them.
Yeah.
But you can kind of float around, and there's a lot of different spots to fish down there. And people don't realize you don't have to be in the ocean to catch bottom fish.
Right. Yeah.
You got the A jetty. It's not as good on the North jetty, but there is bottom fish on the North jetty. You got the South jetty. You can swing around on the ocean side of the South jetty and still catch fish down there. And they move. Yeah. Right? They move with the tides, and use your electronics. Yeah. They're not hard to find. It's just once you find them, you got to stay on them.
Right. Yeah, I'm a sucker for crab for sure. I think it was last year. I was hanging out with good old Brandon Powers, and you guys were rooming together, and we went and got some crab.
Oh yeah,
we had an ungodly crab feast. We were covered in butter and Old Bay, and
it was good. that was what, in July?
Oh
July
yeah,
or August.
Yeah. That was gross. That was the grossest I've ever felt. Probably.
It was good though. It was good. Yeah. I get tired of cracking them, but that's what kids are for.
Yeah, that's right.
I worked out a deal with my kids when they were younger. I said, look, you can eat as much crab as you want. We got to crack it all.
Yeah.
So they get a plate full of crab going, and they're like, man, I'm full. And it's like, well, you still got 15 more to crack.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's fun. I mean, there's so much stuff. Well, and you've been down there enough times. There's so much stuff to just do down there.
Yeah. Between catch and release sturgeon, you got bottom fish, you got crab, you got salmon. And it's just.
Yeah. That's why I tell people they're going to come down in August.
Right. Yep.
It is by far the best time. You don't have to worry about the weather because you can fish the river.
Yeah. And the river gets big too.
It does.
For an 18-foot boat guy.
Stay above the bridge.
Yeah.
Let
me tell you, there was one day last year that we went down and we fished Chinook, and that weather flipped about 2 hours earlier than it was supposed to. And so I went and I ran down the Washington side, and I went to make the run across the sands, and the way that wind was hitting with the tide, that was a western run across the sands.
And you were above the bridge on that one.
Yeah. And I was soaked.
And it's funny because I have this little, I keep this little notepad on my phone that I send to my clients, and it's a list of everything. And it's your license and a small cooler, and I supply water in the boat, but if you want drinks or whatever else, and I put in rain gear. Yeah. And they're like, well, it's 75 in August. Bring rain gear.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're not in a 40-foot cabin boat. Right. Bring rain gear. And I've had people that, I saw that, but I didn't bring it. It's like, man, you're going to get wet.
Yeah.
I don't care. It does. There's very few days that you're not going to get some weird crosswind.
Yeah.
You might be running the spots or chasing the fish or whatever. you're going to get wet.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're in a 26-foot Columbia or if you're in an 18-foot fish, right?
No.
You're going to get wet.
Yeah. And that wind, the way the wind blows, man, it either blows out of the west or it blows out of the northwest for 95% of August.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to cross the river eventually.
Yeah. And then some days you'll get that screwy south wind. I hate that south wind.
South wind sucks. It's not fun. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Usually those are the days you just sleep in.
Yep. That's right.
Let it turn around and then go back at it again. But that west wind, it blows, man. It's starting right now. I mean, just last weekend it was blowing out of the west, and it'll blow out of the west until middle to end of September.
Yep.
So,
yeah. We can take a second. We can talk some salmon stuff too. Are you primarily still running fresh bait out there, or have you kind of transitioned to like the hardware, like the spinners or super baits or whatever?
well, in the ocean, they're feeding. Still,
Yeah.
Right. They're still. It's different than when you get in the river, right? And it's all an aggression bite.
Yeah.
But there for a couple of years, I went straight hardware.
Yeah.
I did it more from a business standpoint.
Right.
If it's cheap.
Not burning so much bait.
Right. I'm just not burning bait. That probably wasn't the right move because I at heart I'm still a bait guy, right? We talked about started 25 years ago down there. We're cut plug and herring, and I love cut plug and herring.
Oh yeah,
and I love anchovies, and so I usually take both with me now. A lot of it's water temperature too.
Yeah.
I look at that ocean water temperature, right? The warmer it is, the more hardware I use.
Right.
A little bit cooler it is, and a lot of it depends on the temperature of the Columbia up here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those days when we get like a big tide and we push down 70-degree water, 71-degree water.
Yeah.
I'm going hardware.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going hardware. In the mornings, I'm fishing upper water column, right? Heart of the day, outgoing tide, I'm pushing my gear to the bottom.
Right.
Just kind of that standard swing. It's with the tides, the sun, and all that stuff. But I'm packing both now. I like spinners. I do a lot of spinner stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, Mr. Powers got me on some super baits last year. I
Did he?
I hated skinnies. I didn't fish a lot of skinnies. I've known Brad my whole life. And
Yeah.
even when skinnies came out, I didn't fish them.
Right.
And I started fishing them a little bit last year.
Yeah.
It was fun. But I like spinners. You can kind of adjust your spinner blades the way I rig my spinners. You can swap them out with a clevis.
Right. Yeah.
And so
You use the metal clevises or the plastic ones?
I use the metal ones.
the little springy looking bastards.
Yeah, and what's funny is I use the same ones that all my buddies. I mean, we've got a little bit of a guide group down there.
Yeah.
We all use the same ones, and for some reason, I seem to lose my blades. I don't know why. I don't know if it's my fingers don't work, so I bend them out a little bit,
Right,
and my
right.
blades fall off. But yeah, I like spinners. I actually switched to spinners in the ocean probably 5 years ago. And we've got some colors now that we've been running for probably 3 or 4 years in the ocean. That last year was weird.
Yeah.
But for the 4 years before that, man, it was a specific spinner color and a hoochie color that was just lights out.
Right.
Lights out. And a lot of guys, they'll run the blades with the rubber hoochie. And one thing I found, and I can't put any data to it.
Yeah.
I just know what I've seen in my boat and some of my friends is we switched to have you seen the paper inserts?
Oh yeah.
I think a silver's teeth grab those better than a rubber hoochie.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because you fished in the ocean, right? It's like rod berries, and then it stops.
Yeah.
And the rod berries, and then it stops, and then you reel it up, and there's no fish on it.
Right.
And those fish, when you look at there's underwater videos out there you can watch. And those fish will get behind it, right? But they don't strike from right behind it.
Right.
They move off to the side,
And they'll come up and
they come from the side, or they come at an angle, and they swipe at it. And a rubber hoochie, it's there to mimic and attract fish, but they're still hitting that rubber hoochie with their mouth open.
right.
And that paper the paper inserts get tore up.
Yeah.
They do. But I think the teeth in the fish grab it just enough that they can't fly by it, not feel any pressure.
Right.
They feel that little bit of pullback on their teeth, and they'll turn right back around and smack it again.
Yeah.
And I've seen my hookup ratios go up by using those.
Yeah.
And sometimes I put them inside of a rubber hoochie. Sometimes I just use them on their own.
Right.
But that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I switched to doing that, and if you look at my boxes now, I got 200 packages of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because I think just every little bit we can get, especially in the ocean.
Right.
'Cause, I mean, you're going to catch wilds, you're going to catch short fish, you're going to catch keeper fish.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to hook as many fish as possible. Plus, we're fishing barbless.
Yeah.
Thank you, Washington State Department of Game and Fish. But I try to give myself the biggest advantage I can.
Right.
Part of the reason we went to hardware.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're running bait and you get smacked.
Yeah. You got to reel that rod in.
You got to reel it up, right?
Yeah.
The other thing about fishing salmon in the ocean is when somebody hooks a fish, don't stop trolling.
Yeah.
Always keep trolling.
Right.
Even if you just idle down, keep it in gear and keep your gear working.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, you can clear rods on one side if you need to, but I always keep my gear in the water.
Right. Right. Well, because you get doubles and triples, and
I had a quintuple one year, and it was chaos, and it was fun. I'm a storyteller, so
Tell the stories.
it was one of those days that I had actually canceled because of the weather, and it was one of those days I said it was 0 swell. It was like a 1 foot swell, but it was 4 feet of wind chop.
right.
And so I had a grandpa and a grandson. I had a dad and a daughter, and then I had a couple. And I gave them all the option. I said, look, we can fish. It's not going to be unsafe. It's just not going to be, it's going to be unfun.
Right.
Right. And so the couple stayed and the other 4 canceled.
Right.
And so I've got some people I call it a short call list.
Right.
And usually it's just buddies. And I said, hey, if you want to go, it's going to be sporty.
Yeah.
We can go. And it was like 4 feet of wind chop. And the couple, he was in the military, he'd been in the ocean a bunch.
Yeah.
She had never been in the ocean. And I called him and I said, hey man, are you sure you want to go for your wife's first time in the ocean? He goes, I'd be fine. This trip's for me. I said, okay. All right, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was insane. The fishing was phenomenal. We didn't have to go much past the number 2 buoy, which is the red buoy on the south side.
Right.
And we were in fish. I mean, it was sloppy. It was rock and rolling and stuff. But we needed 2 fish. And that's one of the rules for the Columbia, right? Everybody can keep fishing until you catch all your salmon.
Yeah.
And we're trolling along, and a back rod went off, and she came back to grab that. And the other rod, I mean, I hadn't even slowed her down yet. Next rod went off. I'm like, oh, right on. I said, somebody come grab this one. And I'm just idling her down a little bit. And I look up, and both bow rods are buried.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap, somebody grab that one. And so I had 4 clients plus myself. And so at that point, I'm the only one without a fish.
Yeah.
Right. And I got 2 nuts in the boat, and I grab a net, and she's got hers up in the back, and I look back, and the rod I was fishing is bouncing off my motor, just whacking. I'm like, holy shit, it's the only time I've ever had a quintuple in the boat. It was pretty damn fun. We ended up landing them all.
Yeah.
We let 3 fish go, killed 2 of them.
Yeah.
And called it a day. But it can get pretty squirrely out there, man.
Oh, I'm sure.
It can get rodeo-ish.
Yeah.
And so that's why you just keep your gear running all the time.
Yeah.
And that's hardware. I mean, that's where hardware comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of the other stuff I've changed, I went to 360s in the ocean a couple of years ago.
Did you? Yeah.
The first few years I was guiding, I was still running triangles out there, and they still produce.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they still produce. They're just
they still have their place. For sure.
they do. And a lot of times I'll run triangles on my bow rods. Some guys will run just triangles on their back, because with 360s, you've got to watch your rods.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got to get that timing down. And it took me a long time to learn, because I was a triangle guy.
Yeah.
And so I just rip around, right?
Yeah.
They're always spinning, right? Doesn't matter how fast you're going. The shit's always spinning. And so it took me a long time to figure it out. And you can throw triangles out, just something different.
Right.
Just something different in the spread. And you still want to fish to the 360, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to fish to the triangle.
Right.
And so if you're cut plugging a bait and the majority of your spread is 360s,
Yeah.
cut plug your bait to run at your 360 speed.
Yeah.
Your herring, right? You might need to cut a little bit more of an angle so it'll spin at a slower speed, because 360s are slower. Your triangle might only spin slowly, but you're still fishing it.
Right.
And just something different. A lot of times I'll put like one of my bow rods on a triangle.
Yeah.
Just, I'm still fishing my other 5 rods to a 360.
Yeah.
Just because I know they're working.
Yeah.
But just something.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said. There's something to be said too about running bait behind 360s. Like, a lot of guys think that 360s are hardware, but like anchovies,
anchovies in a hood.
Yeah.
I love anchovies in a hood behind a 360.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's killer.
They're dangerous.
It's killer. But that's one thing too, is I run hoods.
Right. Yeah.
I definitely run hoods.
Oh, absolutely.
Even like the Dick Sure spin on a cut plug.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll run though. I actually learned. I fish in Alaska in the summer too. And So I've got a place in Petersburg that I go up and I fish.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And we run sure spins.
Yeah.
Up there. It goes back to that. You get a short strike and you're still fishing.
That's right. Yeah.
And same thing. I mean, well, and the way I used to run anchovies, I ran a 3-hook rig.
Oh, okay.
And you can't do that in the ocean.
Right. Yeah.
So I switched to running anchovy hoods, and Yeah, I like anchovies behind a 360. A lot of people don't run it, but
yeah.
it's even in the river.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even in the river.
Even for springers.
Yes, it is. And there's lots of stuff out there, right? I mean, people got to get on the water to figure it out for themselves. But that is definitely bait.
Yeah.
Bait behind a 360 is a good option.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, absolutely. I don't know, man. How long have we been doing this? Oh shit, we're over an hour.
All right.
Oh yeah, we are.
All right.
Yeah. What do you think? You want to touch on anything else? You want to?
Not much, man. Just the ocean's a different animal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
you got to respect it.
You got to respect it. If you're not comfortable, go with somebody.
Right.
Right. It doesn't have to be a guide.
Yeah.
Right.
But go more than once too, because every day is going to be different.
It is going to be different, right? And you know, we've all got plenty of buddies that fish that somebody's been in the ocean a couple of times, or follow them out, or call me.
Yeah.
Right. If you got your own boat and you want to go, call me. You can follow me out.
Right.
You know, I'll talk to you. And so that's like, for me, I want everybody to fish. The more people we can get into the sport, the better off we're going to be. We're going to get more people to deal with the politics side. So if somebody out there wants to go in the ocean for the first time, call me, right? You can get on my website, find my phone number, get my Facebook page, Instagram, all that stuff. Call me and follow me out. You want to go, follow me out.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's the worst thing I would do is somebody to hear us talking about the ocean, go down there and sink their boat.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right? Thinking, oh man, you know, he said that it was
that wet net dude said he could do it. Right? That dude's an idiot.
Right? Like that's the last thing. So just you know, make a phone call. Like I said, I'm going to be down there. I think my first ocean trip's like the 27th of June. Then I'm taking a little bit of a break for a vacation, and then I'll be back down there the 4th of July, and I'll be there 4 days a week until the end of August.
Yeah. Go down there, follow somebody, realize you can't follow everybody because not everybody knows as much as they think.
Right. Exactly.
So and follow somebody reputable, follow RJ, follow somebody who knows what they're doing. You know?
Exactly. So that's just respect it, man. It can be a lot of fun, but it can kill you in an instant, right?
Yeah.
They say that there's old captains and there's crazy captains, but there's not old crazy ones.
Yeah, right.
Because they don't make it.
Yep.
You know, so that's,
Yeah. You want to take a second, shout out any sponsors you got? You want to tell people about your social medias, where they can find you for trips?
So if you don't have a fillet mat, go get one.
Yeah, I got two.
I tell you what, so it's funny. Oh, God, we're going to go over time now. But
that's fine. I don't give a shit.
But so I work in a manufacturing facility, and obviously I wear fishing hats and shirts. And the owner of Filetway, he owns some other companies too, and was doing some business with us. And he came in one day and he asked me, he says, "You fish a lot?" I said, "You could say so." He goes, and he asked me, and I didn't know him from Adam at this point. And you ever heard of those Filetway mats? And I said, I just laughed. I'm like, yeah, it's another gimmick rubber piece of crap. And he goes, well, I own it.
Oh,
I go, really? You know,
and
he goes, you want to try one? And I said, no, I'll try one. I said, it's just I was a cutting board, and actually I used to use a roofing shingle.
Oh, did you?
Right? Because it would stick. The fish would stick to it, right? Yeah. And the guys use AstroTurf and all the other crap. And I said, yeah, I'll try one. The first time I used one, man, it's a game changer.
You're sold.
Yeah, I was sold, right? And now, I mean, I'm doing 500 fish a year, 1,000 fish a year, and they don't stink. You can roll them up, you can shove them anywhere, dude. And so they're killer. Yeah, that's a big thing for me. It's killer, right? And then some of the other products, right? I use Short Bus, right? I love JT. JT's a stud.
Yeah.
Right, he'll custom make them. Right, he's revolutionizing colors and chrome.
Oh yeah. Well, now he's got his single fin 360s.
Yep. So if you like to go fast,
I haven't had a chance to run them yet. But
if you like to go fast, you can run single fins. Right, you can run double stuff, and obviously the Procure stuff. Right, I love Procure stuff and stuff. And then big one the last couple of years, Fish Fighter, man.
Yeah.
They are innovative.
Yeah.
It's some of the stuff they've come out with. It's my last two boats now have been outfitted with it. And
mine's outfitted. I got the rod risers. I got the anchor. I got the anchor nest. I don't have a bow mount, so I don't need that quick disconnect deal. But if I did, you bet I'd have it.
It's killer. I've got it sitting out there. Well, we went out and looked at it, man. It's killer. It's pretty awesome. So but it's just kind of the general rule of thumb stuff. But a lot of guys kind of balk at the Filetway stuff, and it's like it's expensive, right? But you'll never need another one.
Oh yeah,
I mean, unless you're killing. I burned through some mats, but it's a usable item.
Yeah. But I've had mine for a couple years. I don't kill near the number of fish you guys do, but mine are probably 3 years old, and they're missing some little nubs and stuff.
Well,
but,
what's funny is you only need a couple of nubs to hold that fish.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you could have half of them worn off. You know, I've got some out here that, I've given them to Con and the owner, but they use them for show and tell, and they still work, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, So, but, I've got, you want to get my website, it's lowercolumbiaguide.com. I've got a calendar with my open days. Don't have much left. I think I got 2 days in July, and I think I've got 4 seats open on August 4th.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's
so you're booked pretty tight.
I'm pretty tight. And so, but as always, reach out, right?
Yeah.
If I get open seats or whatever, and then obviously I'm on Facebook, Lower Columbia Guide Service, and Instagram. And so, if anybody wants to reach out, and I keep quite a few days open before the ocean opens for salmon, for bottom fish.
Right.
So, and those are always, I call all of my bottom fish stuff like a short call.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all weather based.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Once again, huge shout out to our sponsors, Fish Sauce, Cold Water Strong, North Wild. I'm going to be announcing a giveaway probably tonight. If not tonight, then tomorrow. By the time this episode airs, it'll already be out there. So I don't know why I'm saying that, but I'll be announcing that North Wild giveaway with the Millennial products in it. Quick little recap. We went over some ocean safety stuff. That's a big thing.
Huge thing. Yep.
We went over some bottom fishing stuff. He went through a couple of his bottom fishing setups. We talked some salmon. I think that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah.
But well, I tell you what, man, it was a blast to sit down and chat with you.
All right, buddy.
I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again sometime.
For sure.
So
do it on the boat or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys have yourselves a good weekend. Tight lines. Hope you guys go out and get some fish. There's still salmon seasons open on the Columbia right now, and bottom fishing's going on. There's a lot of options. So
steelhead, salmon, bottom fish. There's shad down. We caught some shad last weekend. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. So you guys stay safe, tight lines, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.